Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Star Wars channel. I'm so grateful you've drifted your way here tonight. Perhaps it's been a long day in your own corner of the galaxy, or maybe you're simply seeking a quiet passage into rest, a moment to let the mind settle like stardust beneath dimming skies. You've come to the right place. There's nothing you need to hold on to now. No battles to fight, no councils to attend, no hyperspace lanes to navigate. Just let your breathing soften. Let your thoughts drift like calm ships gliding through the void, and let the stillness of the Force gather around you like a warm cloak. Because tonight, we're traveling to one of the most whispered nights in galactic history. A moment of great sorrow, yes, but also profound mystery, deep reflection, and quiet truths that echo across ages. Tonight, we fall asleep to the story of Order 66, the night the Jedi fell, and the galaxy was changed forever. But don't worry, we're not here to relive it in fear or haste. We're here to explore it with gentleness, as though wandering through the memories of an ancient holocron, its light soft and flickering. We're here to breathe with the stories, to understand them, to honor them, and to let their echoes lull us into deep, peaceful dreams. From the first tremors in the Force, to the whispers behind the clone army, to the quiet survival of those who endured. Tonight's journey will guide you through every hidden corner of this turning point in time. So, if your eyes aren't already growing heavy, let them soften now. If your mind is still busy with the day, let it quiet like distant stars fading into a gentle mist. You are safe. You are resting, and the Force is with you. Now, breathe in the calm of the galaxy. Exhale the weight you no longer need, and may the Force be with you. Always. 1. A whisper in the Force. On quiet nights long before the fall, the Force trembled with a faint and distant warning, a shiver felt only by the most attuned Jedi, like the soft ripple of a pebble cast into a moonlit lake. Some masters paused during meditation, sensing a shadow they could not name, a presence just beyond the edge of their perception. They wondered if it was simply the strain of the Clone Wars, or something older, deeper, waiting to awaken. But the galaxy moved on, unaware of the approaching storm. The Jedi continued their duties, calm and resolute, even as the currents beneath them grew colder. And in that quiet unease, the first shadow of Order 66 was born. And from that whisper, another truth begins to stir. 2. The Republic at Dusk. As the Clone Wars dragged on, the Galactic Republic, once a beacon of unity, began to dim like a sun slipping behind distant mountains. Worlds once vibrant grew weary, and the Senate debated endlessly under chandeliers that flickered like fading stars. Even the Jedi, guardians of peace for 1,000 generations, found themselves stretched thin across a conflict they never wished to fight. In the haze of war, few noticed how fragile the Republic had become. Trust eroded, fear settled, and beneath the dome of the Senate, the Chancellor's power grew quietly, almost gently, as though the galaxy had simply grown too tired to resist. The day was ending, though few realized how soon night would fall. And in that twilight, another piece of the story takes shape. 3. Storm clouds over Coruscant. Above the endless sky lanes of Coruscant, the air itself seemed to thicken with unspoken tension, like storm clouds forming over a city that no longer remembers the feel of rain. Jedi walked the halls of their shining temple, unaware of the tempest gathering beneath its foundations. Clone battalions marched with precision, their armor gleaming, their loyalties unquestioned, yet wired to a fate no one had told them. From the highest spires to the deepest underlevels, The Force hummed with foreboding, a soft vibration against the hearts of those who could listen. But life on Coruscant was loud, busy, and blindingly bright, too bright to see the darkness pooling at its edges. And within that gathering storm, the next secret quietly unfolds. 4. The Chancellor's hidden plan. Behind the polished smile of Chancellor Palpatine, a quiet and meticulous plan was unfolding, so delicate, so deeply layered, that even the wisest Jedi could sense only a faint disturbance. To the Senate, he was a guiding light in troubled times. To the Jedi, a respected leader seeking counsel. But beneath that familiar voice was a secret centuries in the making, stitched into the seams of the Republic like invisible thread. Palpatine moved slowly, gently, never drawing suspicion, shaping events with a patience known only to the Sith. A single figure, unnoticed in plain sight, guiding the galaxy toward an unseen precipice. And as his plans deepened, another shadow within the Force quietly grew. 5. The Kaminoan secret. Far across the stars, on the rain-soaked world of Kamino, the soft drumming of endless storms hid one of the galaxy's greatest secrets. The cloners, serene and graceful, worked in silence beneath white artificial lights as they nurtured an army grown not from passion or loyalty, but from design. Each clone carried within them a directive they never knew existed, a seed planted long before their first breath. To the Kaminoans, it was just another commission, a contract fulfilled with precise, dispassionate care. To the Jedi, it was a gift of much-needed allies. To the Sith, it was the key to everything that followed. And with every trooper who stepped from those pristine vats, the future of the Order tilted just a little more. 6. Echoes of a future betrayal. Throughout the Outer Rim, as Jedi and clones fought side by side, there were moments, brief, fleeting, when a strange resonance stirred between them. A clone might pause, blinking as if hearing a distant call. A Jedi might sense a subtle chill, a faint discord in the Force. But the feelings vanished as quickly as they came, brushed aside as tiredness, stress, or the weight of battle. Yet these small tremors were the first hints of what lay hidden beneath armor and bone. Like echoes of thunder before a storm, they whispered of bonds that would one day break, not by choice, but by command. And in that uneasy harmony, the future betrayal hummed quietly beneath every shared victory. 7. The creation of the clone army. Long before the Clone Wars began, the first sparks of the army that would one day shape the fate of the Jedi glimmered quietly in Kamino's laboratories. The clones were crafted with meticulous care, each one molded from the strength and discipline of Jango Fett. To the Jedi, they were welcomed as loyal allies, brave, steadfast, and unwavering in duty. Yet beneath the surface of this engineered army lay mysteries the Jedi never thought to question. Every trooper, though unique in spirit, carried the same silent thread of destiny woven through their minds. A destiny they did not choose, but would one day fulfill. And from this engineered brotherhood, the next piece of the story gently emerges. 8. The Jedi's blind spot. Despite their deep wisdom and centuries of tradition, the Jedi walked unknowingly toward the heart of a grand deception. The Force, once their clearest guide, seemed clouded, as though wrapped in a thick veil of fog. Visions blurred, warnings faded, and truths that once shone like stars now flickered dimly in their grasp. They sensed something shifting, yet the shape of it remained just beyond reach. Perhaps it was trust, perhaps duty, perhaps the simple need to believe the Republic still stood for peace. Whatever the cause, the Jedi never saw the full design surrounding them, even as the pieces fell quietly into place. And through that fog, another moment of fate drifts closer. 9. Seeds of distrust. As the war stretched on, subtle doubts began to take root within the Jedi Order. Small at first, almost delicate, but growing with every passing cycle. They felt uneasy about their role as generals, uncomfortable commanding soldiers bred for battle. They worried about the Chancellor's growing influence and the secrecy gathering around him like a coiling mist. Yet despite these concerns, they pressed forward, believing unity would hold the galaxy together. But distrust, once planted, rarely fades, and the Sith counted on this quiet erosion of confidence. In the soil of uncertainty, fear found fertile ground, and the Order drifted further from clarity with every whispered doubt. And from those seeds, the next step in the tragedy begins to unfold. 10. The calm before the cataclysm. In the final days before the fall, an unusual stillness drifted across the galaxy. It was the kind of quiet that settles before a gathering storm, when the air grows heavy and the stars themselves seem to hold their breath. Jedi and clones alike carried on with their missions, unaware that the ground beneath them had already begun to shift. To many, the war felt close to ending. Victory glimmered at the edge of possibility, and peace seemed ready to return. But the Force knew differently. It pulsed with a deep and ancient warning, one the Order could sense only faintly, like a whispered echo across endless space. And in that deceptive calm, the cataclysm waited patiently. 11. The inhibitor chips. Hidden deep within the minds of every clone trooper rested a small biological implant, a sliver of control designed to remain dormant until the moment it was needed. The Jedi knew nothing of these chips, believing their soldiers acted with full agency and honor. But the Sith had shaped a more chilling destiny. These implants were the quiet hinges upon which the entire purge would turn, ensuring that loyalty could be rewritten with a single command. To the clones, the chips were invisible, nestled like tiny secrets within their thoughts. To the galaxy, they were the silent mechanism of an impending storm. And once their purpose was awakened, nothing would be the same again. From this hidden truth, the next layer of tragedy unfolds. 12. A directive buried deep. Long before the war, while the Jedi still believed the clone army to be a blessing, the Kaminoans received an order they never questioned. It was designation Order 66, filed quietly among hundreds of contingency commands. To them, it was just another protocol, a line in a contract, a directive to be followed if ever invoked. But its meaning was far darker than they imagined. The directive was planted so deeply within the clones' programming that even the soldiers themselves could not sense it. It waited like a silent shadow, patient and unblinking, ready to turn brother against brother in an instant. And with that buried command, the fate of the Jedi was sealed long before they ever felt the danger. And now, another quiet truth begins to surface. 13. The numbers that meant doom. Among the hundreds of contingency protocols woven into the clones' training, a few numbers carried extraordinary weight. Order 66 was spoken only in hushed administrative channels, never explained, never elaborated upon. It was a number that meant nothing until the moment it meant everything. Even the Kaminoans, meticulous and precise, understood it only as a directive tied to the Jedi, but not the depth of its consequence. For the clones, it existed like a faint word at the back of the mind, a shape without outline. And for the Sith, It was the keystone upon which the galaxy would tip. A simple number, harmless in appearance, poised to rewrite the fate of an entire order. And from those digits, another turning point glimmers in the shadows. 14. Training, without truth. From their earliest moments, the clones learned discipline, loyalty, and unity, but never the truths hidden beneath their obedience. In vast white halls, instructors guided them through drills and maneuvers, shaping them into perfect soldiers of the Republic. They trained with valor, with camaraderie, believing they served justice. But beneath those noble lessons lay a silence carefully engineered by Sith hands. No clone knew of the directive slumbering inside their minds. No trainer dared speak of its purpose. The truth was shrouded in calm command lines and hollow assurances, buried so deeply that even the most introspective trooper could never sense it. And in that quiet absence, the stage was set for the galaxy's sharpest fracture. From this unspoken void, the next revelation slowly rises. 15. Unseen puppeteers. Behind the grand theaters of war, the battlefield triumphs, the Senate debates, the Jedi councils, there worked a pair of unseen puppeteers. Darth Sidious and the long-fallen Darth Plagueis had laid the foundation for a future that only one of them would live to witness. Sidious, patient and meticulous, tugged at the strings with a subtlety no one could detect. Every alliance, every battle, every political shift served his hidden design. To the galaxy, he was a leader. To the Jedi, a troubled ally. To the clones, a commander above all others. And to the Force, he was a shadow steadily growing, shaping destiny one careful thread at a time. And from the hands of these unseen architects, the next part of the tale quietly descends. 16. A brotherhood, unaware. Across the countless battlefronts of the Clone Wars, bonds formed between Jedi and clones that felt genuine, steadfast, and deeply human. Around campfires on remote worlds, clones shared stories of their accelerated childhoods, while Jedi spoke of the temples where they trained. They fought side by side, protected one another, and mourned the fallen with the quiet dignity of true comrades. Yet beneath every shared victory, every clasped forearm, every knowing smile, a terrible truth remained hidden. The clones had no idea of the dormant command woven into their minds, the order that would one day turn their loyalty into tragedy. And in the warmth of that unknowing brotherhood, fate gathered like distant thunder. From this fragile harmony, another shadow steps forward. 17. Loyalty engineered. The Republic praised clone loyalty as unwavering, noble, and deeply inspiring. And in many ways, it truly was. The clones made choices, formed friendships, and fought with heart. But beneath that genuine spirit lay a layer of conditioning, crafted not for freedom, but for control. Their loyalty was reinforced through repetition, subtle programming, and quiet manipulation. It was a loyalty built to withstand hardship, but not designed to question authority. Especially not orders from the Chancellor. The clones believed in the Jedi, but they were engineered to obey a higher command without hesitation. And in that delicate balance between free will and design, the galaxy's fate rested, trembling like a lantern flame in a cold wind. From this constructed devotion, the next truth emerges softly. 18. The weight of unchosen fate. Deep inside each clone, buried beneath courage and camaraderie, lay a quiet weight. The weight of choices they would never truly make. Though they laughed, fought, and lived with genuine emotion, their path was shaped long before their first breath. This unchosen destiny was a silent passenger in their minds, gently steering them toward a moment none could foresee. Had they known, perhaps their hearts would have broken under the burden. Had the Jedi known, they might have listened more closely to the Force's trembling warnings. But neither side sensed the tragedy woven into their shared future. And so the clones marched forward, unaware of the storm they carried within. From this quiet inevitability, the next layer of the story unfolds. 19. Kamino's quiet compliance. On the distant ocean world of Kamino, the endless rain fell like a constant whisper, soothing and cold. Within its gleaming white corridors, the Kaminoans moved with serene precision. Tall, graceful beings who valued efficiency above emotion. To them, fulfilling a contract was simple. Follow instructions, deliver results, ask no unnecessary questions. So when the mysterious contingency orders were encoded into the clones' minds, they complied without hesitation, trusting the Republic's intentions. They did not sense the trembling future those commands carried. They did not imagine an order built on peace would harbor such darkness. And while the storms outside raged, Kamino remained calm, unaware of the tempest those soldiers would one day unleash. From this quiet obedience, another thread of destiny tightens. 20. Stormtroopers in waiting. Though the galaxy knew them as clone troopers, heroes of the Republic, protectors of countless worlds, their future identity already lay silently within them. The discipline in their stance, the uniformity in their ranks, the unshakable obedience they displayed, all were early echoes of the stormtroopers they would one day become. They were shaped not only to fight a war, but to serve an empire that did not yet exist. Every drill, every march, every salute practiced beneath Kamino's luminous lights nudged them gradually toward the role they would inherit. To the Jedi, they were brothers in arms. To Sidious, they were the foundations of his new order. And in that hidden duality, the future of the galaxy waited patiently. From these silent beginnings, the next revelation draws near. 21. The Duel of Masks. Throughout the Clone Wars, the galaxy watched Chancellor Palpatine and the Jedi Council clash in subtle, almost delicate ways. Each side wore a mask. Palpatine's was one of concern, a gentle leader seeking guidance from trusted protectors. The Jedi's was one of calm, guardians who sensed danger yet struggled to identify its source. Beneath these carefully maintained facades, a quiet tension simmered. Sidious played both roles flawlessly, the vulnerable statesman and the hidden Sith Lord. The Jedi, unaware of the depth of his deception, tried to navigate murky political waters clouded by war. This dance of illusions shaped the final days of the Republic, guiding each step toward the inevitable. And through this duel of masks, the next piece of the tragedy emerges from the shadows. 22. A Sith in plain sight. For years, the Jedi searched for the Sith Lord guiding the galaxy toward darkness, unaware that he stood beside them every day. Chancellor Palpatine, calm, reassuring, endlessly patient, hid his true nature behind soft smiles and subtle gestures. Even the most perceptive Jedi could not pierce the veil he wove around himself, a cloak of deception strengthened by centuries of Sith philosophy. He was a shadow, wearing the skin of a friend, a storm hiding beneath silk. The Force tried to reveal him, but the dark side coiled tightly around his identity, masking him from all but the faintest suspicion. And so, he moved freely, shaping destiny with quiet hands. From this hidden darkness, another layer of the tragedy begins to rise. 23. Threads of war. The Clone Wars were not simply battles scattered across starlit worlds. They were threads woven deliberately by Sidious, stretching from one conflict to another like a vast spider web. Each skirmish, each strategic victory, each mysterious setback served a purpose: to wear down the Republic, to strain the Jedi, and to elevate fear across the galaxy. The Jedi believed they were fighting to preserve peace. But in truth, they were fighting along lines drawn by the Sith themselves. Every world aflame, every fleet deployed, every desperate plea for aid tightened the net around the Order. The war became a symphony composed by a single conductor, one who listened for the perfect moment when everything would collapse. And from those tangled threads, the next movement of fate quietly unfurls. 24. Divide and conquer. One of Sidious's most delicate strategies was to isolate the Jedi from the people they served. As the war escalated, propaganda painted them as warriors instead of peacekeepers, figures of conflict rather than guardians of harmony. The Senate began to question their motives. Citizens wondered why the Jedi now commanded armies. This growing divide weakened the trust that had held the Republic together for centuries. Sidious nurtured suspicion, with a whisper here, a suggestion there, until doubt seeped into every corner of the galaxy. The Jedi felt the distance widening, but could not mend it, while the war consumed their focus. And in that quiet fracture between protectors and the protected, the Sith found fertile ground. From this spreading divide, the next stage of the fall begins to form. 25. The war that was designed to end. Though the Clone Wars raged across countless systems, its conclusion had been scripted long before the first battle droid marched onto a field. Sidious shaped the war, not as a conflict to be won, but as a stage upon which every piece would fall into its final position. Victory and defeat held no meaning to him. Only timing mattered. To the galaxy, chaos seemed unpredictable. To the Sith, it was choreography. Every crisis a step in a dance leading toward the moment when the Jedi would be most vulnerable. As the conflict peaked, the Jedi believed they were nearing triumph. But in truth, the war had only ever been a narrowing corridor, guiding them toward a single, devastating end. And from this scripted finale, another thread of destiny begins to tighten. 26. The Jedi Council's concerns. Within the serene chambers of the Jedi Temple, the Council gathered often, their discussions marked by a quiet unease. They sensed deception in the Senate, noticed the Chancellor's growing influence, and felt the Force dimming in ways they could not explain. Their meditations brought little clarity. The dark side cloaked everything in swirling shadows. Some masters feared a hidden threat. Others believed political tides were simply shifting. Yet none could grasp that the danger lay within arm's reach, smiling at them through diplomatic warmth. Despite their wisdom, they found themselves reacting to the galaxy instead of guiding it, a reversal that weighed heavily on their hearts. And in this struggle for clarity, the next step toward the fall quietly settles into place. 27. The Chancellor's emergency powers. As the war expanded, Palpatine was granted emergency powers, reluctantly at first, then increasingly without question. Each new measure seemed reasonable, even necessary. A vote here, a decree there, all wrapped in the language of protection and stability. But with every expansion of authority, the Senate surrendered another fragment of its freedom. And the Jedi, spread thin across distant battlefronts, were left with neither the time nor the influence to intervene. Palpatine's voice became the calm center of the Republic, trusted above all others. Unnoticed, he stood upon the threshold of absolute control, a position from which Order 66 would flow as quietly as a whispered breath. And through these widening powers, the next shadow of fate begins to form. 28. Shadows in the Senate. Within the towering columns and shimmering lights of the Galactic Senate, subtle shadows crept between the debates and declarations. Senators argued passionately for their worlds, believing they still shaped the future. Yet many of their decisions were quietly influenced by whispers orchestrated by Palpatine. Lobbyists, advisors, and seemingly harmless clerks nudged discussions in ways too gentle to notice. The Republic appeared vibrant, alive with democratic discourse, but beneath that motion lay a stillness, the calm of a puppeteer's hand guiding the strings. Even those who suspected something amiss could not identify the source of the unease. And as the Senate leaned further into Palpatine's guidance, it unknowingly illuminated the path to its own eclipse. From these silent corridors, the next veil of darkness drifts into place. 29. The moment the trap closed. In the final days of the war, when General Grievous was hunted and the Separatist leadership crumbled, the Jedi believed the conflict's end was within reach. Relief fluttered through the temple like a warm breeze, a hope that things might soon return to peace. But that sense of imminent victory was exactly the illusion Sidious had crafted. With the Jedi scattered across the Outer Rim and the Council consumed by political turmoil, the pieces of his long-laid plan aligned with a chilling precision. It was in this moment, when the Order felt both weary and hopeful, that the last latch of the trap sealed shut. The galaxy did not hear the click, but the Force trembled softly, knowing what came next. And from this silent closure, the next revelation prepares to dawn. 30. The Emperor revealed. The revelation of Darth Sidious was not a sudden explosion of truth, but the quiet unmasking of a persona perfected over decades. To Anakin, he revealed himself not with violence, but with calm confession. A soft voice in dim light, offering understanding and power in equal measure. To the Jedi, the truth came too late, uncovered in fragments, each discovery slipping through their grasp like sand. When his true form finally emerged, the galaxy shuddered not from surprise, but from recognition, as though some deep part of the Force had known all along. Sidious stepped from shadow into destiny, embracing the identity he had hidden in plain sight. And with his unveiling, the galaxy edged closer to the night the Jedi would fall. 31. The words that changed the galaxy. When the moment finally arrived, it came not with thunder or spectacle, but with a quiet, steady voice. Execute Order 66. Just 3 simple words, soft, precise, spoken with the calm authority the clones had been conditioned to obey without hesitation. Across star destroyers, jungles, deserts, and distant battlefronts, helmets turned and hearts shifted as a hidden command awakened like an ancient lock clicking open. The Force shivered, sensing the sudden fracture rippling through every corner of the galaxy. Jedi, who had stood beside their troopers seconds before now, felt an icy wave of dread. And with that whispered directive, everything changed. From this single breath of command, the night of the Jedi's fall quietly begins. 32. Sabers extinguished. In the seconds after the order was spoken, a terrible stillness passed through the Force. Jedi across countless battlefields sensed their clones shift. A subtle tightening in posture, a sudden silence in familiar thoughts. Many didn't even ignite their lightsabers before the first shots were fired. Some were struck down mid-sentence, others mid-stride. trusting their troopers until the very last breath. The glow of lightsabers, once symbols of peace and clarity, flickered out one by one, swallowed by blaster fire and betrayal. In that dimming constellation of fallen warriors, the galaxy felt a profound darkness seep into its bones, and from each extinguished blade, another sorrowful echo spread outward, guiding us into the next shadowed moment. 33. Clones, turning on masters. The transformation was instant, a shift from loyal companionship to cold, programmed execution. Clones who had laughed with their Jedi, shared rations with them, and protected them through the fiercest battles now lifted their rifles with expressionless certainty. Their hearts did not harden, their wills did not waver, because neither belonged to them anymore. Some clones hesitated for the briefest fraction of a moment, as if a distant part of themselves resisted the command. But the chips buried deep within their minds tightened their thoughts like a vice. Duty became absolute. Compassion fell silent. And the Jedi, blindsided by the swiftness of the betrayal, could only sense the tragic weight of inevitability. From this turning of brothers into executioners, the next chapter of the fall unfolds. 34. 1,000 battlefields. Across the galaxy, Order 66 unfolded not as a single moment, but as 1,000 simultaneous heartbreaks. On forest moons and icy ridges, in swampy trenches and starship hangars, Jedi found themselves suddenly surrounded by the very soldiers they had trusted with their lives. Each battlefield carried its own quiet tragedy. Some Jedi sensed the betrayal a heartbeat before it struck, while others had no warning at all. The Force rippled with their fear, confusion, and final acts of courage, each thread weaving into an immense tapestry of loss. Stars flickered overhead, indifferent, yet strangely solemn, as if they too felt the sorrow spreading across the galaxy. And from these scattered tragedies, the next shadowed truth rises to meet us. 35. The Jedi who never saw it coming. Many Jedi, caught in the rhythms of battle or the calm of reflection, didn't sense the shift in their clones until it was far too late. Some stood with their backs turned, trusting the soldiers who had saved them countless times. Others meditated beneath alien skies, feeling only the faintest tremor in the Force before blaster fire shattered the moment. Their final breaths were not cries of anger or despair, but of confusion, a soft question cast into the void. Why? These Jedi became silent echoes, their stories carried gently by the Force itself, preserved like starlight long after their flames were extinguished. And in the quiet of their passing, the galaxy mourned. From these unseen endings, another sorrow takes shape. 36. Blaster fire in the Quiet Order 66 reshaped the soundscape of the galaxy in an instant. Where there had been banter, camaraderie, and mission chatter, there came only blaster fire. Sharp, cold, and merciless. It pierced through jungles, echoed through canyons, and reverberated in ship corridors that had moments before felt safe. For many clones, the world seemed to narrow into a single path, their vision focusing, their breath steadying as instinctive obedience overtook conscious thought. For the Jedi, the sudden violence felt unreal, like waking into a nightmare woven from mistrust and shadows. The harmony that once guided them through battle fractured all at once, replaced by a chilling stillness between shots. And from that shifting silence, the next moment of the fall awaits us. 37. Temples in flames. As Order 66 swept across the stars, the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, once a sanctuary of wisdom and light, became a place of flickering shadows and trembling stone. Its grand halls, filled with centuries of teachings, echoed with hurried footsteps and distant cries. Flames began to curl along its sacred spires, casting long, wavering shapes across the skyline. Holocrons dimmed. Statues seemed to bow beneath the weight of what was happening. The temple, heart of the Jedi for countless generations, felt the betrayal like a wound in the Force itself. And within its burning walls, the Order's long history softened into embers drifting upward toward an uncaring night. From this sacred ruin, the next solemn truth emerges. 38. Shockwaves through the Force. When the Jedi began to fall, the Force itself trembled, not in anger, but in sorrow. Across distant systems, sensitive beings felt sudden chills, a tightening in their chests, or an inexplicable sense of loss. Masters in meditation were jolted from their serenity. Padawans far from danger wept without knowing why. Even creatures attuned only faintly to the Force paused, sensing an imbalance spreading like ripples through still water. It was as though a constellation of lights had been snuffed out all at once, leaving the galaxy dimmer, quieter, and infinitely heavier. For centuries, the Jedi had been the song of harmony within the Force, and now that melody was fading into silence. From these trembling echoes, the next shadow of the tale begins to form. 39. The agony of the Padawans. Among the countless tragedies of Order 66, the fate of the Padawans stands as one of its most heartbreaking. Young learners, some barely more than children, found themselves caught between confusion and terror as the world they trusted suddenly collapsed. Many reached instinctively for their masters, only to find empty air. Others tried to hide, clutching the teachings that had once brought them comfort. Their small voices echoed through the temple's corridors, mingling with distant blaster fire and the hum of collapsing hopes. The Force wrapped around them gently, trying to shield what innocence it could, but even it could not stop the tide. And in their fear, the galaxy felt a deeper wound open. From their trembling steps, the next sorrowful chapter awaits. 40. The sky darkening. As the Jedi fell across distant worlds, the galaxy itself seemed to dim. Skies that had once glowed with vibrant dawns now felt muted, as though the stars were holding their breath. On Coruscant, smoke curled upward from the burning temple, drifting like dark veils across the horizon. On remote planets, clouds gathered unexpectedly, casting long shadows over forests, deserts, and cities. The Force carried the weight of the moment, like a storm gathering in its deepest currents. Even those untouched by war sensed a quiet unease, shopkeepers pausing mid-step, travelers looking upward without knowing why. The galaxy had known conflict before, but never silence like this. From this darkened sky, we step gently into the far edges of the outer rim. 41. Felucia's last glow. On Felucia, where giant fungi rose like glowing towers and sunlight filtered through vibrant petals, the world felt almost dreamlike. Jedi Master Ayla Secura walked through its colorful wilderness, unaware that these would be her final steps. The air shimmered with iridescent hues, and the sky glowed softly through drifting spores. For a moment, everything felt peaceful, a rare quiet in the midst of war. Then Order 66 ignited like a cold spark among her troops. Blaster fire shattered the serenity, carving harsh lines of blue light through the gentle landscape. Felucia absorbed the tragedy without protest, its bioluminescent forests glowing faintly as though mourning. And as the light dimmed, the next story of betrayal unfolds on another distant world. 42. Kashyyyk's betrayed truce. Deep within the towering Roshir trees of Kashyyyk, Jedi Master Yoda fought alongside the Wookiees, defending their home from separatist forces. The planet thrummed with life, rustling leaves, echoing bird calls, and the steady chants of Wookiee warriors. It was a place where nature and the Force intertwined beautifully. But even here, surrounded by allies and ancient serenity, the shadow of Order 66 reached. Clone commanders, who had moments before protected the Wookiees, suddenly turned their weapons toward their Jedi general. The forest, once alive with unity, fell into sharp confusion as blaster bolts cut through the greenery. Yoda felt the shift instantly, the Force screaming a warning only he could truly hear. From the treachery among Kashyyyk's branches, another solemn chapter awaits on Utapau's quiet plains. 43. Utapau's sudden silence. On the wind-carved cliffs and cavernous sinkholes of Utapau, the battle against General Grievous had just concluded. Obi-Wan Kenobi, weary but resolute, believed the tide of war was finally shifting toward peace. The world around him felt strangely calm, the wind sighing through the deep caverns, the native Pau'ans bowing in gratitude, the sky a muted canvas above. But peace lasted only a breath. As Order 66 activated, Commander Cody received the command with unblinking obedience. Moments earlier, he had returned Obi-Wan's lost lightsaber, and now he ordered his men to fire upon him without hesitation. The first blast tore through the quiet air, shattering the fragile stillness. And from Utapau's silent betrayal, the next tragedy flows into the cold light of Megiddo. 44. Megiddo's frozen end. On the icy world of Megiddo, where crystalline cities rose like frozen cathedrals, Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi led his troops across a shattered bridge. The wind howled softly, carrying tiny shards of frost that glittered like falling stars. The battle was nearly won. The end of the war felt close. But then, without warning, the clones behind him slowed, rifles lowering into position with chilling precision. Ki-Adi-Mundi sensed the wrongness only at the last heartbeat, a tremor in the Force, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. His troops, once devoted and steadfast, opened fire upon him in relentless waves. The ice beneath them glowed with reflected blaster fire, turning the frozen city into a quiet grave of broken trust. From Megiddo's cold betrayal, the next sorrow unfolds beneath Cato Neimoidia's fading light. 45. Cato Neimoidia at dusk. Cato Neimoidia was a world suspended between sky and stone, its bridges stretching like delicate threads over deep, misty valleys. Jedi Master Plo Koon soared through its dusk-lit clouds in his starfighter, guiding his squadron home after another long mission. The sky was painted in soft amber, serene and full of promise. Then the order came. His wingmen, their minds locked by the inhibitor chips, peeled away with mechanical precision. Blaster fire erupted through the golden haze, striking Plo Koon's ship and sending it spiraling downward. The calm evening sky absorbed the betrayal with heartbreaking quiet, the mist swallowing the last traces of a Jedi who had cared deeply for his troops. And from that gentle dusk, our path now drifts toward the next battlefield in the tale of the fall. 46. Salayukami's final shots. On the quiet plains of Salayukami, where pale grasses swayed beneath a muted sun, Jedi Master Stas Ali rode her speeder with calm purpose. The world around her seemed gentle, far removed from the chaos of the wider war. Her clone escort followed closely, their engines humming like a soft lullaby across the barren fields. But serenity often hides sorrow. When the hidden command awakened, the clones' voices fell silent, replaced by a chilling focus. blaster fire erupted suddenly, streaking across the open plain. Stas Alley barely had time to look back, not in fear, but in aching confusion, before the flames consumed her speeder. The wind carried the echoes away, letting them fade into stillness. From this lonely plain, the next chapter drifts toward the stars above. 47. Order 66 on Star Destroyers. High above countless worlds, many Jedi served aboard Star Destroyers, trusting their troopers, guiding their fleets, and maintaining a fragile hope for the Republic's future. The metallic halls hummed softly with the steady rhythm of hyperspace travel, a sound that often lulled exhausted generals into rare moments of rest. But when the order came, that hum seemed to change, its warmth cooling into something hollow. Clones who had stood shoulder to shoulder with their Jedi commanders suddenly turned with expressionless precision. Blaster fire echoed down the narrow corridors, bouncing off steel walls that had once felt protective. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, only the vast emptiness of space waiting beyond the viewports. And from the silent decks of those starships, the next sorrow moves into hyperspace. 48. The betrayal in hyperspace. For some Jedi, their final moments unfolded in the strange twilight between stars, caught in the swirling blue glow of hyperspace. Starfighters glided through the tunnel of light, serene and weightless, guided by pilots who trusted one another completely. Then the shift came. Clones received the command even in transit, their thoughts tightening into unyielding obedience. A subtle motion of a control stick, a gentle redirect of a formation, and suddenly the Jedi were trapped in a deadly pattern. Blaster fire in hyperspace looked almost beautiful. Streaks of light within light, as though the stars themselves were turning against them. In this unreal corridor between galaxies, betrayal felt both immediate and impossibly distant. And from that glowing tunnel, our path returns now toward forgotten temples and hidden survivors. 49. The lost temples on distant worlds. Scattered across the galaxy were forgotten Jedi temples, ancient sanctuaries hidden beneath jungle canopies, buried in desert sands, or carved into lonely mountainsides. During the war, many lay empty, tended only by drifting winds and the soft hum of the Force. When Order 66 rippled outward, these quiet places felt the disturbance like a chill sweeping through stone walls. Some temples flickered with fading lights as holocrons powered down, sensing the fall of their keepers. Others echoed with memories, as though the walls themselves mourned the loss of generations who once walked their halls. Though untouched by blaster fire, these sanctuaries were wounded all the same, their purpose suddenly hollow, their guardians gone. And from these silent ruins, the next chapter shifts toward the choices Jedi made in their final moments. 50. Jedi who tried to reason. Not every Jedi reacted to Order 66 with their lightsaber drawn. Some turned to their clones with open palms and steady voices, believing the bond they had forged could withstand anything, even an inexplicable command. They called out gently, asking what was wrong, seeking understanding rather than violence. But the clones' eyes, once filled with camaraderie, now held only the stillness of unwavering obedience. Their answers, if any came at all, were brief, confused, or simply drowned beneath the sound of blaster fire. These Jedi died with compassion on their lips, trusting their allies until the end, unable to imagine such betrayal from those who had once saved them. And from these tender final moments, the story moves toward others who chose to run instead of reason. 51. Jedi who tried to run. For some Jedi, Instinct took over the moment the command was felt, a sudden warning from the Force urging them to flee. They sprinted through forests, vaulted over ravines, and darted into narrow canyons with clones close behind. The world around them blurred into streaks of motion, trees whipping past, dust rising beneath hurried steps, hearts pounding in sync with every shot fired. They weren't running from their troops. They were running from confusion, from heartbreak, from a future that no longer made sense. Some found temporary shelter in caves or abandoned outposts. Others reached their ships, only to be shot down before takeoff. Their escape attempts painted the galaxy in threads of sorrowful motion. And from those desperate runs, our path now leads toward the Jedi, who tried something even more heartbreaking: to protect their clones instead of themselves. 52. Jedi who tried to protect their clones. A rare few Jedi, sensing something twisted and wrong, chose not to defend themselves, but to shield their clones instead. In that first, disorienting heartbeat, they felt the pain and confusion radiating from their troops, a turmoil buried under the crushing weight of the inhibitor chips. Rather than raising their sabers, these Jedi reached outward with the Force, trying desperately to quell the storm within their soldiers' minds. Some whispered calm, others projected soothing waves of light, begging the Force to restore clarity. But the programming was too deep, too absolute. These Jedi fell not in fear, but in sorrow, grieving the fate forced upon the very beings they had come to love and respect. And from this heartbreaking compassion, another thread of the tale unravels quietly. 53. Those left. With no time at all. Across many worlds, Order 66 struck with such suddenness that some Jedi had no chance to react. There was no warning tremor in the Force, no flicker of intuition, no moment to ignite a lightsaber or speak a final word. Blaster fire erupted the instant the command reached the clones, swift and unrelenting. These Jedi fell in the span of a breath, mid-step, mid-thought, mid-mission. Their stories ending before they could comprehend what had happened. The Force caught them gently, like a warm hand closing around a falling star, carrying their memories into its vast embrace. Their loss, silent and immediate, added another layer to the galaxy's grief. And from this sudden stillness, the next sorrowful truth drifts into view. 54. The ones who felt it. First, among the Jedi, a few sensed the coming darkness moments before it struck. The Force whispered warnings through visions, chills, or sudden drops in their heartbeats. Some paused mid-stride, sensing betrayal approaching like a shadow sliding across their thoughts. Others felt sharp stabs of dread, flashes of blaster fire, or the echo of voices crying out in pain. These premonitions were fragments, small, desperate attempts by the Force to alert its protectors. Yet even when the signs were clear, there was often no time to act. A glance, a gasp, a whispered, "Wait," and the storm crashed down upon them. Their final moments were marked by understanding mingled with helplessness. And from these first tremors of intuition, our path now turns toward those who never knew why the betrayal happened at all. 55. The ones who never knew why. For many Jedi, the tragedy of Order 66 was not only the sudden betrayal, but the mystery that wrapped itself around their final breaths. They died without understanding what had changed in the hearts of their loyal troopers. There were no shouted explanations, no moments of revelation, only the cold, mechanical precision of soldiers acting on a hidden command. Some Jedi believed it to be a strategic misunderstanding. Others thought the clones were under attack and reacting blindly. None imagined the truth, that this fate had been planted years before, woven into their troops like threads in a tapestry. Their confusion echoed softly into the Force, forming a sorrowful chorus that lingered long after their passing. And from this unanswered heartbreak, we now move toward the Chosen One's fall. 56. The fall of the Chosen One. Anakin Skywalker's descent was not a sudden plunge, but a slow unraveling, a path carved by fear, love, and manipulation. Sidious whispered to him with the gentleness of a confidant, offering promises that soothed old wounds while deepening new ones. Caught between loyalty to the Jedi and desperation to save Padme, Anakin felt the galaxy tightening around him like a closing fist. The shadows in his heart grew heavier with each choice, until the Force itself felt dimmer in his presence. When he finally embraced the title of Darth Vader, it was with a quiet, tragic surrender, not to power, but to fear. The Chosen One, meant to bring balance, stepped into darkness with trembling resolve. And from his fall, the next sorrowful march takes shape. 57. Footsteps toward the temple. When Anakin returned to the Jedi Temple with the 501st Legion at his back, the city of Coruscant seemed unusually still. The temple's tall spires glowed softly against the night, unaware that doom approached its doors. Each step he took echoed across the marble floors, resonating through memories of his childhood training. Halls where he once laughed, learned, and dreamed of greatness. Now those same halls awaited tragedy. Clones marched behind him in perfect silence, their blue armor reflecting the flickering torchlight. Anakin's face was a mask, carved from sorrow and fury, his heart lost somewhere between duty and despair. The temple did not yet know it was witnessing the footsteps of its own undoing. And from those echoing steps, our path now moves toward the blue-lit march of the 501st. 58. The March of the 501st. Under the pale glow of Coruscant's evening lights, the 501st Legion advanced toward the temple with a steady, rhythmic precision. Their boots struck the polished steps in unison, creating a low, steady thrum that echoed through the plaza like a heartbeat fading into silence. These were the clones who had fought beside Anakin through countless battles, brothers forged in loyalty, courage, and trust. But tonight, their loyalty was bound to a different master. They moved without hesitation, their blue markings shimmering faintly beneath the torchlight. The city around them seemed to hold its breath as they ascended the steps, an unstoppable tide of armor and shadow. And from this quiet, chilling march, the next sorrowful image comes into focus. 59. The blue glow of betrayal. Inside the temple, the soft hum of lightsabers igniting cast an eerie blue glow across ancient stone. Anakin's blade burned with a cold intensity, illuminating corridors that once felt warm with learning and laughter. The clash of sabers and the desperate shouts of defenders echoed faintly through halls adorned with centuries-old murals. The 501st moved like phantoms behind him, their blaster bolts streaking through the dimness in brilliant flashes. The blue light, once a symbol of Jedi harmony, now painted the walls with grief. Every footstep, every shot, every swing of Anakin's saber felt like another thread of the Order's history unraveling. And in that shifting glow, the heart of the Jedi seemed to dim. From this haunting illumination, the next shadowed moment begins. 60. The doors closing behind them. As Anakin and the 501st advanced deeper into the temple, heavy doors slid shut behind them, sealing off escape routes and dividing Jedi from one another. Each door closing echoed like a final heartbeat, a soft but definitive sound that marked the narrowing of hope. Padawans ran through hallways, searching for mentors. Masters called out warnings that dissolved into chaos. Yet the doors continued to seal, one after another, turning the temple into a maze of fading light and fractured paths. For many Jedi inside, the hiss of a closing door was the last sound they ever heard, a quiet farewell wrapped in steel. And from these final barriers falling into place, the story moves softly toward the ashes and silence that follow. 61. Ash and silence. As the night deepened over Coruscant, the Jedi Temple, once a beacon of light, began to fade into a landscape of ash and silence. Statues that had stood undisturbed for centuries were chipped by stray blaster fire. Banners of old victories sagged beneath drifting smoke. The air carried the faint scent of scorched stone, a quiet reminder of the battles that had raged within those sacred halls. Inside, the once bustling corridors lay still. Lights flickered, as if struggling to hold on to their last moments of purpose. Every fallen Jedi became another faint ripple in the Force, absorbed gently into the great echo of all who had come before. And from this hushed aftermath, the story shifts now toward the smallest and most fragile voices caught in the storm. 62. The Lost Younglings. Deep within the training chambers, the younglings, children who had only begun their journey with the Force, sensed fear long before they understood its meaning. Their small hands clutched practice sabers. Their eyes searched the halls for the masters who always made them feel safe. But the temple felt different now, colder, darker, as though the very walls were holding their breath. Some younglings huddled together, whispering questions none of them could answer. Others tried to be brave, remembering the lessons their teachers had given them about courage and calm. But fear is a heavy thing for small hearts. The Force wrapped around them gently, as if trying to hold them close. And from their trembling innocence, the next tragic vow forms within the man who once cared for them. 63. Anakin's final vow. Amid the shadows of the temple, Anakin Skywalker carried a storm within him, a storm of fear, desperation, and twisted purpose. In his mind, every step deeper into darkness was a step toward saving Padme, a step toward controlling the destiny that had always seemed to slip away from him. His vow was fueled not by cruelty, but by a tragic conviction that only absolute power could protect the ones he loved. But the Force trembled at his choice. The halls he once knew echoed differently now beneath his boots, as though the temple itself mourned the path he walked. Each decision, each action, sent him spiraling further from the boy who once dreamed of freeing slaves and helping the galaxy. And from this vow whispered in shadow, the story turns toward Padme's distant grief. 64. Padme's unseen grief. Far from the burning temple, Padme Amidala stood on her apartment balcony, watching smoke rise into the Coruscant night like dark ribbons unfurling. The city hummed below her, but her heart beat with a quiet dread she could not name. She sensed that something had shifted, not just in the Republic, but within Anakin himself. The warmth of his last embrace lingered, yet it felt shadowed now, as though part of him had already slipped beyond her reach. Tears welled, not from certainty, but from a terrible intuition. She touched her stomach gently, seeking solace in the new life growing within her. But even that promise felt fragile beneath the weight of unspoken fear. And from this silent sorrow, our path moves toward the stillness of the watching stars. 65. The stars, watching in stillness. As the tragedy of Order 66 unfolded, Countless stars looked down in quiet indifference, suns and moons continuing their eternal paths as though nothing had changed. Yet in their cold, distant glow, one could almost imagine a kind of cosmic sympathy. Starlight touched burning temples, shattered battlefields, and drifting starships, illuminating the galaxy's grief with gentle, silvery light. To wandering travelers, the skies felt heavier that night, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. The Force rippled beneath the celestial canopy, carrying echoes of fallen Jedi across the void like fading constellations, and in the hush between galaxies, even the stars seemed to whisper of balance lost and destiny reshaped. From this quiet cosmic witness, the story turns toward those who survived the impossible. 66. Yoda's escape into exile. On Kashyyyk, Jedi Grand Master. Yoda felt the tremor of Order 66 like a blade through the Force. In that instant, he understood the full breadth of the betrayal. With swift clarity, he defended himself, moving through sorrow and necessity with the grace of centuries. Yet the weight of the fall pressed heavily upon him. Each lost Jedi, a sharp ache in his ancient heart. With the help of loyal Wookiee allies, he escaped through the shadowed waterways and towering roots of the forest world. He did not flee in fear. He fled in mourning, knowing the future of the Jedi now rested in secrecy, patience, and quiet endurance. As his ship rose into the starry night, he felt the Force dim around him. And from his lonely departure, our journey drifts toward the next survivor in the shadows. 67. Obi-Wan's narrow flight. Across the galaxy, on the cliffs of Utapau, Obi-Wan Kenobi felt the tremor of betrayal like a sudden chill threading through his spine. Moments before, he had fought Grievous with calm precision. Now he sensed a darkness spreading far beyond the battlefield. When clone fire erupted around him, the shock cut deep. These were men he had trusted, soldiers who respected him, friends who had fought steadfastly by his side. He dove into the cavernous depths to escape, clinging to the worn fabric of survival and instinct. The Force guided him gently, whispering paths through danger until he reached safety among sympathetic allies. But grief followed him like a shadow. And from Obi-Wan's narrow flight, the story slips toward other Jedi lost in the storm. 68. Ahsoka, Beyond the Order. Far from the temple, Ahsoka Tano lived as a citizen hidden within the galaxy, already separated from the Jedi Order she once loved. Her departure, painful and unexpected, may have saved her life. When the ripples of Order 66 surged outward, she felt a sharp disturbance through the Force. Familiar voices extinguished, lessons fading into grief, and an echo of Anakin's turmoil brushing against her heart. Though no longer a Jedi, she was still deeply connected to them. The betrayal struck her with the weight of lost family, leaving an ache she could not name. Yet her distance offered her a fragile chance at survival, one she used to protect those around her as chaos unfolded. From Ahsoka's quiet resilience, the next tale follows another survivor, destined to remain hidden. 69. Kanan Jarrus in the Shadows Born. Caleb Dume, the young Padawan, survived Order 66 through a desperate flight into the unknown. His master fell before him, her final act shielding him from the first wave of blaster fire. Stunned and heartbroken, Caleb ran through forests, across ridgelines, into darkness thick with fear. He shed his name and his past, becoming Kanan Jarrus, a wanderer living between worlds. The Force dimmed around him, not from abandonment, but from his attempt to hide from the pain of memory. He carried the weight of survival through years of silence, learning to bury his sorrow beneath rough humor and guarded distance. And from Kanan's lonely path, the story drifts now toward other Jedi who wandered unseen through the shadows of the new Empire. 70. Cal Kestis on the run. On the industrial world of Braca, a young Padawan named Cal Kestis buried his past beneath layers of exhaustion and anonymity. He worked among scrap and starship wreckage, hiding his connection to the Force with the caution of someone who had tasted loss far too early. Cal survived Order 66 only by instinct and heartbreak, watching his master fall while the galaxy he knew collapsed around him. For years afterward, he lived quietly, flinching at memories he could not escape. Every spark from a welding torch, every hiss of machinery reminded him of the chaos he had fled. Yet within him, the Force still flickered gently, patient and persistent. And from Cal's fragile survival, the story moves toward another Jedi who slipped through the Empire's tightening grasp. 71. Quinlan Vos disappears. Quinlan Vos, the maverick Jedi known for his unconventional path, felt the surge of darkness as Order 66 swept through the galaxy. Unlike many, he was already wandering in the shadows, following threads of the Force that often led him far from the temple. When the command struck, he sensed it like a distant thunderclap, echoing through the deep places of his mind. Vos vanished into the galaxy's hidden corners, places where even the Empire's watchful eyes struggled to reach. Some say he joined underground networks, helping smuggle children to safety. Others whisper he followed visions toward worlds untouched by Imperial rule. Wherever he went, the Force wrapped around him like a cloak of drifting mist. And from his mysterious disappearance, our journey turns toward the faint sparks of hope scattered across the stars. 72. The Hidden Children. In the wake of the Purge, small pockets of hope glimmered in the form of Force-sensitive children scattered throughout the galaxy. Many had been identified by the Jedi for future training, their names quietly recorded in ancient archives. When the temple fell, some were rescued by sympathetic families, underground groups, or surviving Jedi who risked everything to protect them. Others were hidden in plain sight, living simple, quiet lives on distant moons, unaware of the destiny sleeping within them. The Force whispered gently to these young ones, nurturing them like seeds beneath winter snow. Though the galaxy had darkened, the future still carried tiny sparks of light. And from these guarded children, the story now moves toward the Jedi who embraced peace instead of conflict in the years that followed. 73. The Jedi who chose peace. Not every surviving Jedi ran or fought after the Purge. A few, sensing the overwhelming tide of darkness, chose instead to lay down their sabers and fade into quiet lives. These were Jedi who believed that resisting would only cause more suffering, both for themselves and for those they might endanger. Some became farmers on distant plains, tending soil beneath unfamiliar suns. Others worked as healers in small villages, using only the faintest whisper of the Force to soothe pain rather than stir suspicion. They carried the Jedi code in their hearts, not as a weapon, but as a memory of a gentler time. And though the galaxy forgot their names, the Force remembered their peace. From these hidden guardians, the story drifts toward legends whispered in passing. 74. The Jedi who faded into legends. Across remote star systems, tales grew of wandering monks, mysterious hermits, and travelers who seemed to know things no ordinary being should. Some claimed these figures healed wounds with only a touch. Others said they could calm storms or sense danger before it arrived. These were the Jedi who had disappeared so completely that they became stories, half-believed rumors, traded in dimly lit cantinas or around campfires under alien skies. Children would listen wide-eyed, wondering if such beings truly existed, while adults dismissed the tales as wishful echoes of a forgotten order. Yet every so often, someone would swear they saw one. A hooded figure passing through a marketplace, quiet and kind, leaving behind a strange sense of comfort. And from these living myths, our journey turns toward those who carried embers of rebellion. 75. The early rebels. In the shadows of the Empire's rise, a few brave souls began to gather. Senators, pilots, citizens, and even former soldiers who could not ignore the tightening grip of tyranny. Among them were whispers of Jedi survivors, lending hope to those who dared dream of resistance. Some rebels carried fragments of Jedi teachings, passed to them in hurried exchanges or shared in secret meetings. Others fought simply because they believed the galaxy deserved better than fear and oppression. Their movement began as a quiet murmur, like the first breeze before dawn, gentle but insistent. These early rebels laid the groundwork for a spark that would one day ignite into a new hope. And from their quiet courage, the path now leads toward the remnants the Jedi left behind. 76. Refugees among the stars. After the fall of the Jedi Order, countless beings found themselves displaced. Not only Jedi, but diplomats, scholars, families, and travelers whose lives had been intertwined with the now shattered Republic. Ships drifted through hyperspace with no destination, seeking worlds untouched by Imperial rule. Refugees gathered in hidden ports, sharing soft whispers of what they had witnessed. Temples burning, fleets collapsing, freedoms slipping quietly into shadow. Amid their sorrow, small communities formed in unlikely places. Inside abandoned asteroid colonies, forgotten mining stations, and gentle forest clearings on uncharted moons. They offered one another comfort in the darkness, creating pockets of warmth where fear could rest. And from these drifting survivors, our path turns gently toward artifacts the Jedi left behind. 77. The remnants of the Temple. When the Temple fell, not everything within its ancient walls was lost. Holocrons, journals, and meditation relics, some cracked, some scorched, survived in hidden vaults the Empire never found. A few loyal droids, still following their final orders, sealed away chambers deep beneath the ruins, preserving fragments of the Jedi's legacy. Crates of training sabers gathered dust in forgotten storerooms. Scrolls of old philosophies lay scattered across stone floors, their words waiting for eyes that might one day read them again. Even the echoes of younglings laughing lingered faintly in the Force, as though the temple itself remembered all who had walked its halls. These remnants became seeds, quiet symbols of what the Order once was. And from these fragile memories, the story drifts toward the hidden wisdom stored in light and crystal. 78. Holocrons in hiding. Across the galaxy, Jedi holocrons, those glowing cubes of crystal and circuitry, waited in darkness for future generations. Many were hidden intentionally by fleeing masters, tucked away in caverns, buried beneath stone, or sealed inside ancient shrines abandoned long before the Clone Wars. Each holocron held teachings, histories, and voices that glowed faintly with preserved wisdom. Some carried messages of hope, others warnings, others lessons meant only for Padawans who would never come. Imperial scouts, hunted them relentlessly, but the holocrons were elusive, protected by the Force and by the secrecy of those who hid them. Like stars, waiting behind clouds, they remained patient, silent beacons of what might someday rise again. And from their quiet radiance, our journey moves softly toward the hunters who sought the last surviving Jedi. 79. The Purge Troopers Hunt. In the years that followed the fall of the Jedi, the Empire forged a special kind of soldier, Purge Troopers, trained to track down the last remnants of the Order. Their armor, dark and imposing, echoed the shadows they served. They moved with methodical precision, following faint traces of Force signatures across forgotten worlds and ancient ruins. Wherever they walked, silence followed. They were relentless, unwavering, and shielded by secrets they never fully understood. Some hunted alongside Inquisitors, their presence a chilling reminder that the Empire feared what even a single Jedi could become. And, though many Jedi stayed hidden, the Purge Troopers' cold persistence cast a long, dark shadow across the galaxy. From these relentless hunters, our story now shifts toward the faint places where the Force still offered shelter. 80. The Force's quiet shelter. Despite the darkness spreading through the galaxy, the Force continued to flow gently, offering refuge to those who remained. On forgotten moons, the air shimmered with quiet energy. In deep forests, ancient roots hummed with soothing resonance. The Force wrapped around frightened survivors like a soft cloak, guiding them subtly toward safety. Some Jedi found themselves drawn to caves where crystals glowed faintly with unbroken hope. Others felt nudges in their hearts, urging them toward kind strangers or peaceful communities where they could heal. The Force did not shout. It whispered. And in those whispers, the galaxy preserved small pockets of serenity, safe havens hidden beneath the Empire's sweeping gaze. From this gentle protection, our journey rises toward the dawn of a new era, where an empire takes shape in the widening silence. 81. The birth of the Empire. With the Jedi gone and the Senate manipulated into submission, the Republic fell quietly into the hands of the Sith. Palpatine's voice echoed through the Grand Chamber as he proclaimed the rise of the Galactic Empire, presenting it as a promise of safety and stability. Senators applauded through forced smiles or weary acceptance, unaware of the iron fist closing around them. The galaxy shifted in that moment, subtly but irrevocably. Flags changed, armies rebranded. Worlds that once trusted the Jedi now found themselves under Imperial control, their freedoms narrowing like dimming starlight. The Emperor's new order began not with celebration, but with a hush that spread like frost across every system. And from this quiet transformation, the next chapter carries us deeper into a universe reshaped by fear and control. 82. Sabers snuffed out. In the aftermath of the Purge, the galaxy grew quieter, not only from the absence of Jedi voices, but from the stillness of their lightsabers. Once symbols of harmony, discipline, and clarity, these blades were extinguished one by one. Many were taken as trophies by Imperial forces. Others were hidden by refugees or destroyed to avoid detection. On distant worlds, forgotten sabers lay buried beneath shifting sands or sealed inside abandoned outposts. Some still hummed faintly in the Force, as if remembering the hands that once held them. To the Empire, they were relics of a past better left erased. But to those who mourned the Jedi, they were silent prayers, glimmers of hope waiting for a future they might one day illuminate again. And from their quiet stillness, our journey moves toward the rewriting of history itself. 83. Archives rewritten. In the heart of Coruscant, the Jedi archives once stood as a vast well of knowledge, holobooks, star maps, ancient records, and the teachings of generations. But after Order 66, the Empire's archivists moved through the halls like cold winds, erasing and altering the truth. Jedi accomplishments were downplayed. Their warnings were discredited. Entire eras of history were reframed to paint them as traitors to the republic they had served so faithfully. Shelves that once carried the warmth of wisdom now echoed with emptiness. The Empire understood that controlling the past meant controlling the future, and so the archives became instruments of silence. Yet beneath the layers of revision, the Force preserved memories too powerful to be forgotten. And from these fractured histories, we drift toward the lives reshaped by the Empire's rise. 84. The Clones. Without a war? With the Clone Wars abruptly ended, thousands of clone troopers found themselves suddenly without purpose. They had been bred for battle, trained for war, and shaped for loyalty. Yet now, the galaxy around them had fallen into an uneasy quiet. On starships and bases, clones stood in still formation, waiting for orders that no longer came. Some felt a strange emptiness, a hollow echo where camaraderie and mission had once lived. Others struggled with flickers of memories, friendship with Jedi, shared victories, moments of laughter, now overshadowed by an unspoken guilt they could not fully understand. The war had defined them, and its end left them drifting like ships without navigation. And from this unsettling stillness, our path moves toward the worlds now under Imperial rule. 85. Worlds under new rule. As the Empire's shadow spread, countless planets felt the shift like a sudden chill in the air. Worlds that once celebrated freedom now watched Imperial banners rise over government buildings and spaceports. Clone troopers, now soldiers of the Empire, patrolled streets they had once protected, their presence heavy and unfamiliar. At first, the changes were subtle: new regulations, curfews, and tightened communication lines. But soon, the softness of these measures hardened. Local leaders disappeared into the folds of imperial detainment. Markets quieted. Public squares grew tense and watchful. Some citizens whispered that the galaxy felt smaller now, as though the stars themselves were dimmed by fear. And from these worlds learning to survive under rule, the story moves toward those who enforced the Emperor's will. 86. The Inquisitors rise. To hunt the remaining Jedi, the Emperor shaped a new order of dark enforcers, the Inquisitorius. Former Jedi, fallen acolytes, and Force-sensitive individuals were twisted into hunters, trained to snuff out the last sparks of the light. Draped in black armor and carrying humming red blades, they moved through the galaxy like shadows given form. Where they walked, whispers followed. Stories of interrogations, disappearances, and the once hopeful forced into despair. Each Inquisitor carried their own scars, their own tether to the past, but their purpose was singular: extinguish what little remained of the Jedi way. They were the Emperor's quiet storm, relentless and sharp. And from their rise, the galaxy slipped deeper into an age defined by fear and obedience. 87. The Emperor's long shadow. With each passing cycle, Palpatine's presence spread farther beyond the halls of the Senate and deeper into the galaxy's collective consciousness. His holograms appeared on towering screens across cityscapes. His decrees echoed through communications arrays, and his influence threaded through every political decision. No longer a chancellor, no longer a mask. He was now the living symbol of an empire built on silence and compliance. Citizens bowed not from loyalty, but from caution. Senators spoke carefully, measuring every word against the possibility of unseen consequences. And somewhere, beneath all the fear, a ripple of resistance stirred. From the stretch of the Emperor's shadow, we now drift toward the quiet corners of the galaxy, where hope begins to take its first timid breaths. 88. A galaxy, holding its breath. In the wake of the Jedi's fall and the Empire's rise, the galaxy seemed to slip into a strange, suspended quiet. Trade routes flowed more cautiously. Travelers spoke in murmurs, and distant star systems watched one another with new wariness. It felt as though every world, from bustling core planets to silent outer rim settlements, was holding its breath, unsure of what the Emperor's rule would bring. Families gathered around holoscreens, listening to broadcasts filled with reassurances that did little to ease the tension in their hearts. Even the Force itself seemed subdued, as if resting in preparation for what might come next. This stillness settled like morning fog across the stars, veiling both fear and possibility. And out of that hush, the first whispers of hope began to form. 89. Whispers of hope. Though the galaxy trembled under Imperial rule, not all light had been extinguished. In quiet taverns and hidden safe houses, small murmurs began to circulate. Rumors of Jedi survivors, stories of senators who still believed in the old republic, tales of pilots willing to stand against oppression. These whispers were soft, fragile things, barely louder than the hum of a starship's engine. But they carried weight. Hope rarely begins with proclamations. It begins with questions. Could the Empire be challenged? Could the truth be restored? Could balance one day return? These quiet doubts, shared in shadows and carried through the Force, laid the first stones of a path that would, in time, lead to rebellion. And from these timid embers, the story moves toward the Force itself, stirring anew. 90. The Force stirring again. Even in the darkest eras, the Force never sleeps. Beneath the weight of the Empire's cruelty, beneath the loss of the Jedi, and the tightening grip of fear, subtle tremors began to ripple through its currents. It was not a roar, nor a resurgence, but a soft awakening, like a seed unfurling beneath cold soil. This energy moved gently, touching the hearts of those destined to shape the future. Children with quiet gifts, wanderers who sensed something calling, and leaders who felt courage rising where despair once lived. The Force whispered of balance not yet lost, of light that still endured, of destinies yet to intersect. And from this stirring, we drift now toward the echoes that will resonate across time. 91. Luke's inheritance. In the quiet deserts of Tatooine, beneath twin suns rising and setting in soft amber hues, a child destined to reshape the galaxy grew up unaware of his heritage. Luke Skywalker lived simply, fixing vaporators, dreaming of starships, and gazing toward the horizon with a longing he couldn't quite name. Yet the Force whispered to him even then, faintly nudging his heart toward a path none could foresee. He carried the legacy of the Jedi deep within his blood, an inheritance of courage, compassion, and balance. Though the galaxy was still wounded from the Purge, Luke's existence was a promise, one the Force guarded carefully. And from this quiet beginning in the sand, another luminous thread of destiny unfurled across the stars. 92. Leia's hidden destiny. Far away, on the regal world of Alderaan, Leia Organa grew amid marble halls, peaceful gardens, and a culture rooted in diplomacy and justice. Raised as the daughter of Senator Bail Organa, She carried herself with grace long before she knew the truth of her lineage. The Force touched her gently, through intuition, fierce compassion, and an innate sense of right and wrong that guided her every step. Leia's destiny, though concealed beneath royal titles and political duties, shimmered with quiet strength. She embodied the hope the galaxy had forgotten, the spark that could rally countless worlds toward freedom. The twins, separated, hidden, and protected, were the galaxy's silent answer to the darkness of Order 66. And from Leia's budding courage, the story turns toward the shadowed heart of her father's fall. 93. Vader's silent regrets. Deep within the mechanical armor of Darth Vader, beneath the cold breathing and unyielding mask, fragments of Anakin Skywalker flickered like embers refusing to die. Though he crushed rebellions and hunted Jedi without hesitation, there were moments, brief and fragile, when memories stirred. A child laughing in a desert wind, a friend smiling beside him during training, a wife calling his name through the haze of fear. These echoes were not enough to break the chains he had forged, but they were enough to haunt him. At times, the stars reflected on his visor felt like eyes watching him with disappointment he could not silence. And from this buried sorrow, the next chapter drifts toward the quiet vigil of a man who once called him brother. 94. Kenobi's Desert Vigil. On the remote sands of Tatooine, Obi-Wan Kenobi began a life of quiet exile. The once revered Jedi Master now walked among humble dwellings, wrapped in simple robes, his presence as subtle as shifting dunes. He watched over young Luke from afar, keeping him safe not through interference, but through serene patience. The desert became his companion, its winds whispering reminders of the past, its nights offering silent space for meditation. Though burdened by grief and regret, he clung to the small hope that the boy he protected might one day restore balance. His lightsaber remained buried, his true identity concealed, yet the Force flowed gently through him as a quiet guide. And from this solitary vigil, we drift toward another master, hidden amidst ancient trees. 95. Yoda's Forest Refuge. Deep within the mist-covered swamps of Dagobah, Yoda found refuge among tangled roots, glowing spores, and the soft hum of unseen creatures. The planet was rich with life, its dense energy masking his presence from Imperial eyes. Here, the ancient master embraced solitude not as punishment, but as a final lesson in humility and endurance. The forest embraced him, its rhythms syncing with his breath, its shadows offering peace. Yoda meditated for years, listening to the currents of the Force as they wove the future's delicate tapestry. Though sorrow lingered in his small, wise heart, he trusted in the seeds of hope scattered across the galaxy. And from this quiet refuge of green and mist, our journey turns toward a wanderer who walks her own luminous path. 96. Ahsoka's Path of Light. Long after she had left the Jedi Order, and long after the Empire's rise, Ahsoka Tano continued to follow the Force in her own way. She traveled across the galaxy, helping those in need, offering guidance to the lost, and standing against darkness wherever she could. Her path was not bound by tradition, but shaped by compassion and clarity. Though she had endured heartbreak and betrayal, she carried within her a radiant resilience that glowed softly against the shadows of the Empire. Ahsoka became a symbol of hope, neither Jedi nor Sith, but something beautifully balanced between them. Her footsteps echoed with quiet purpose, reminding the galaxy that light can survive even when the night seems endless. And from her enduring grace, we approach the final lessons born from the night the Jedi fell. 97. The lessons of the Purge. In the quiet years that followed, Order 66, the galaxy began to understand the deeper lessons hidden within its tragedy. The fall of the Jedi was not merely a tale of betrayal. It was a reminder of how fear can cloud wisdom, how trust can be twisted, and how even the brightest institutions can dim when shadows grow unchecked. Across distant worlds, storytellers spoke softly of the Jedi's compassion, their courage, and the mistakes that led them into the heart of the Sith's design. The Force held these lessons gently, shaping them into whispers for future generations. For within every downfall lies insight, and within every sorrow, the seeds of renewal. And from these hard-earned truths, the story flows into the quiet hope that balance can return. 98. Balance beyond tragedy. Even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, the Force continued its eternal dance toward equilibrium. Light dimmed, darkness rose, but neither could ever fully silence the other. The collapse of the Jedi Order was not the end of balance, but the beginning of a long and winding journey toward its restoration. The Force sought harmony through unexpected paths, through wanderers, rebels, children born on forgotten worlds, and those who carried sparks of hope without ever touching a lightsaber. It whispered to the brave, the lost, the gentle-hearted, reminding them that balance is not won through war, but through compassion, resilience, and connection. And from this enduring rhythm, the night of Order 66 becomes not just a moment of loss, but a quiet step in the galaxy's healing. 99. The night that never truly ended. For many across the stars, the echo of Order 66 lingered long after the fires faded. Its shadows clung to memories, to empty temples, to faces glimpsed in dreams. Even decades later, survivors felt tremors of that night. Its fear, its confusion, its heartbreak, woven into the very fabric of their journeys. Worlds changed, empires rose and fell, but the memory of the purge remained like a long dusk, neither fully gone nor fully present. Yet the Force, patient and timeless, held this memory with tenderness, allowing the galaxy to grow beyond it at its own pace. The night remained, but so did the hope that dawn would someday break. And from this lingering twilight, we drift now toward the final reflection, where darkness gives way to light once more. 100. From darkness, dawn. In the quiet that followed the fall of the Jedi, the galaxy drifted through a long and restless night. Worlds mourned in silence. Hearts carried wounds they could not name, and the Force moved softly, like a tired breath after great suffering. Yet even in this vast darkness, small lights began to glow. A child learning kindness, a rebel finding courage, a whisper of hope shared between strangers beneath unfamiliar skies. The Force gathered these sparks tenderly, weaving them together like the first hints of sunrise. For dawn does not come all at once. It arrives gently, one soft ray at a time, until even the deepest shadows begin to fade. And so the night of Order 66, though heavy and long, became the soil from which new light was born. Light that would one day rise to meet the darkness once again. And now, as our journey through the galaxy comes to a gentle close, let your breath soften. Let your thoughts settle like drifting stardust. We've walked through the night of Order 66 together. From the first whisper of the Force, to the fall of the Jedi, to the small sparks of hope that glowed in the darkness. The galaxy may have changed on that night, but light always endures, and balance always finds a way to return If these stories helped you drift into the stars tonight, remember to like, subscribe, and share which Star Wars tale you'd love to fall asleep to next. Your presence here keeps this little corner of the galaxy glowing. When you're ready for your next sleep journey, just tap the end screen to explore another quiet voyage, another peaceful night beneath twin suns, shimmering nebulae, or ancient temples humming with the Force. Rest well, traveler. Let the Force guide your dreams, and may you awaken with calm, balance, and light, always.